All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Unblock Your Mind. Charles Francis Haenel. Introduction, Part 1. In this book, you will be shown why what you think, do, or feel is an indication of what you are. Thought is energy, and energy is power, and this is why all the religions, sciences, and philosophies the world has known up to now have been based on the manifestation of this energy, rather than on the energy itself, so that the world has been limited to the effects, while the causes have been ignored or misunderstood. For this reason, we have God and the devil in religion, positive and negative in science, and good and evil in philosophy. The master key reverses the process. It is interested only in causes, and the letters received from students tell wonderful stories. They indicate conclusively that these students are finding the cause by which they can secure for themselves health, harmony, abundance, and whatever is necessary for their welfare and happiness. Life is expressive, and it is ours to express it harmoniously and constructively. Pain, misery, misfortune, disease, and poverty are not necessary, and we constantly eliminate them. But this process of elimination consists in going far beyond limitation of any kind. He who has strengthened and purified his thinking need not worry about microbes, and he who has come to an understanding of the law of abundance will go immediately to the source of supply. It is thus that luck, fortune, and destiny will be controlled as easily as a captain controls his ship or an engineer his train. Part 1. 1. The eye of you is not the physical body. It is simply an instrument which the eye uses to accomplish its purposes. The eye cannot be the mind, for the mind is simply another instrument which the eye uses to think, reason, and plan. 2. The eye is something that controls and directs the body and the mind, something that determines what they will do and how they will act. When you understand the true nature of this eye, you will enjoy a sense of power you have never known before. 3. Your personality is made up of characteristics, peculiarities, habits, and character traits. These are the result of your old way of thinking, but have nothing to do with the true I. 4. When you say, I think, the I tells the mind what it will think. When you say, I go, the I tells the physical body where it will go. The true nature of this I is spiritual, and is the source of the real power that arises in men and women when they come to understand their true nature. 5. The greatest and most wonderful power that this I has given is the power to think, but few people know how to think constructively or correctly, and consequently, they do not achieve results. Most people allow their thoughts to wander in selfish purposes, the inevitable result of a childish mind. When the mind matures, it understands that the germ of defeat is in every selfish thought. 6. The trained mind knows that all business must benefit every person connected with the bargain, and that any attempt to profit by the weakness, ignorance, or need of another will inevitably operate against him. 7. This is because the individual is a part of the universal. One party cannot be against any other party. On the contrary, the welfare of each party depends on the recognition of the common interest. 8. Those who recognize this principle have a great advantage in the affairs of life. They do not boast of themselves. They can eliminate vague thoughts with ease. They can concentrate to the utmost on any subject easily. They do not waste time and money on things that do not benefit them. 9. If you cannot do these things, it is because you have not made the necessary effort so far. Now it is time to make the effort. The result will be in exact proportion to the effort made. One of the strongest affirmations you can use for the purpose of strengthening your will and attaining your power is, I can be what I choose to be. 10. Every time you repeat it, understand who and what this I is. Try to come to a full understanding of the true nature of the I. If you do, you will become invincible. That is, provided your aims and purposes are constructive and therefore in harmony with the creative principle of the universe. 11. If you use this affirmation, use it continually, morning and night, and as often during the day as you think of it, and continue so until it becomes a part of you. Form the habit. 12. Unless you do this, it is better not to begin. For modern psychology tells us that when we begin something and do not finish it, or make an agreement and do not keep it, we form the habit of failure, utter and ignominious failure. If you do not intend to do something, do not start. If you do start, continue even if the heavens fall. If you decide to do something, do it. Do not allow anything or anyone to interfere. The I within you has decided. It is done. The die is cast. There is no more discussion. 13. If you carry out this idea, start with small things which you know you can control and gradually increase the effort, but never under any circumstances allow your E to be overridden. You will find that in time you will be able to control yourself. Many men and women have found to their regret that it is easier to control a kingdom than to control themselves. 14. But when you have learned to control yourself, you will find the inner world controlling the outer world. It will have become irresistible. Men and things will respond to your desires without any apparent effort on your part. 15. This is not so strange or impossible as it may appear if you remember that the inner world is controlled by the I, and that this I is part of and is one with the infinite I, which is the universal energy or spirit, generally called God. 16. This is not a mere statement or theory made for the purpose of confirming or establishing an idea. It is a fact which has been accepted by the best of religious thought as well as by the best of scientific thought. 17. Herbert Spencer said, "Of all the mysteries that surround us, nothing is more certain than that we are always in the presence of an infinite and eternal energy from which all things proceed." 18. Lyman Abbott, in an eloquent address to the alumni of Bangor Theological Seminary, said, "We are coming to think of God dwelling in man rather than working in man from without." 19. Science starts the search and stops. Science finds the omnipresent eternal energy. Religion finds the power behind this energy and locates it within man. But this is by no means a new discovery. The Bible says exactly the same thing, and the language is precise, clear, and convincing. "Knowest thou not that thou art the temple of the living God?" Here, then, is the secret of the marvelous creative power of the inner world. 20. Here is the secret of power, of mastery. To excel does not mean to give up everything. Abnegation is not success. We cannot give unless we get. We cannot be useful unless we are strong. Infinity is not bankrupt, and we who are representatives of infinite power must not be bankrupt either. And if we wish to be of use to others, we must have power and more power. But to get it, we must give it. We must be useful. 21. The more we give, the more we shall get. We must become a channel through which the universe can express itself. The universe is constantly trying to express itself, to be of usefulness, and it seeks the channel whereby it can find the greatest activity, where it can do the greatest benefit, where it can give the greatest service to humanity. 22. The universe cannot express itself through you while you are occupied with your plans and your own purposes. Quiet your senses, seek inspiration, focus mental activity within, live in the knowledge of your oneness with omnipotence. Until the watering flows deep, contemplate the manifold opportunities to which you have spiritual access by the omnipresence of power. 23. Visualize the events, circumstances, and conditions in which these spiritual connections can assist in manifestation. Realize the fact that the essence and soul of all things are spiritual, and that the spiritual is the real, for it is the life in all there is. When spirit is gone, life is gone. It is dead. It has ceased to exist. 24. These mental activities belong to the inner world, to the world of cause, and the conditions and circumstances that result are the effect. This is how you become a creator. This is important work, and it is the highest, greatest, and noblest ideal you can conceive. The work will become the most important. 25. Excesses of work, amusement, physical activity, or of any kind produce states of apathy and mental stagnation. This makes it impossible to do the more important work that results in the realization of conscious power. We must, therefore, seek the silence frequently. Power comes through repose. It is in the silence that we can be still, and when we are still we can think, and thought is the secret of all achievement. 26. Thought is a pattern of motion and is sustained by the law of vibration, just as light or electricity. Giving vitality according to the emotions through the law of love, it takes form and expression according to the law of growth. It is a product of the spiritual I, hence its divine, spiritual and creative nature. 27. From this it is evident that in order to express power, abundance or any other constructive purpose, the emotions must be used to give feeling to the thought so that it may take form. How can this purpose be achieved? This is the essential point. How can we develop faith, courage and feeling which will result in success? 28. The answer is with exercise. Mental strength takes hold in exactly the same way as physical strength with exercise. We think something perhaps hardly the first time. We think the same thing again, and it becomes easier this time. We think it again and again. Then it becomes a mental habit. We keep thinking the same thing, and finally it becomes automatic. We can't help thinking about it anymore. Now we are positive thinking. There is no doubt about it. We are sure we know. 29. Last week I asked you to relax, to let go physically. This week I will ask you to let go mentally. If you practice the exercise given last week 15 or 20 minutes a day as instructed, you can certainly relax physically. And someone who cannot consciously do this quickly and completely is not a master of himself. He has not obtained freedom. He is still a slave to circumstances. But I will assume that you have mastered the exercise and are ready to take the next step, which is mental freedom. 30. This week, after taking your usual position, remove all tension by relaxing completely. Then mentally release all adverse conditions, such as hatred, anger, worry, jealousy, envy, grief, annoyance or disappointment of any kind. 31. You may say that you cannot let go of these things, but you can do so by mentally deciding to do so, by willful intention and persistence. 32. The reason some cannot do this is because they allow themselves to be controlled by emotions rather than by their intellect. But those who are guided by the intellect will gain the victory. You will not succeed the first time you try, but practice makes perfect, in this as in everything. And you must succeed in expelling, eliminating and utterly destroying those negative and destructive thoughts, for they are the seed that constantly germinates in discordant conditions of every conceivable kind and description. There is nothing truer than the quality of thoughts we cherish in correlation with certain aspects of the outer world. This is the law from which there is no escape. And it is this law, this correlation of thought, with its object A, which from time immemorial has led people to believe in special providence, Willmans. Study questions with answers. Part 1. 31. What is thought? Thought is spiritual energy. 32. How is it sustained? It is sustained by the law of vibration. 33. How is vitality given? By the law of love. 34. How does it take form? By the law of growth. 35. What is the secret of its creative power? It is a spiritual activity. 36. How can we develop the faith, courage and enthusiasm which will result in success? By the recognition of our spiritual nature. 37. What is the secret of power? Service. Introduction, Part 2. After studying this part carefully, you will see that every conceivable force, object or fact is the result of mind in action. Mind in action is thought, and thought is creative. Men are now thinking as they never thought before. Therefore, this is a creative age, and the universe is bestowing the richest rewards upon the thinkers. Matter has no power, it is passive and inert. Mind is force, energy, power. Mind shapes and controls matter. Every form that matter takes is only the expression of some pre-existing thought. But thought does not make magical transformations. It obeys natural laws. It sets natural forces in motion. It releases natural energies. It manifests itself in your conduct and actions. And these in due course react upon your friends and acquaintances, and eventually upon your whole environment. You can originate thoughts, and, since thoughts are creative, you can create for yourself the things you desire. Part 2. 1. At least 90% of our mental life is subconscious, so that those who cannot make use of this mental power live within a great limitation. 2. The subconscious can and will solve any problem for us if we know how to direct it. The subconscious processes are always at work. The only question is, are we to be merely passive recipients of this activity, or are we conscious to direct the work? Will we have the vision of where we are going? Will the dangers be avoided? Or will we simply go with the flow? 3. We have found that the mind fills every part of the physical body, always capable of being directed or impressed by the authority that comes from the purpose or dominant portion of the mind. 4. The mind, which fills the body, is largely the result of heredity, which, in turn, is simply the result of the social environment of past generations upon the sensitive and ever-changing forces of life. An understanding of this fact will enable us to use our authority when we find any undesirable trait of our character manifesting itself. 5. We can consciously utilize all the desirable characteristics given to us, and we can repress and prevent the undesirable ones from manifesting. 6. Again, this mind which fills our physical body is not only the result of hereditary tendencies, it is the result of home, work, and social environment, where countless thousands of impressions, ideas, prejudices, and similar thoughts have been received. Much of this has been received from other people, is the result of opinions, suggestions, or statements. Much of it is the result of our own thinking, but almost all of it has been accepted with little or no examination or respect. 7. The idea seemed worthy of applause. The conscious received it. It was approved in the subconscious, where it was taken up by the sympathetic system and went on to be built into our physical body. The Word became flesh. 8. This, then, is the way we are constantly creating and recreating ourselves. Today, we are the result of our last thought, and we will be what we are thinking today. The law of attraction is bringing it to us, not the things we would like, or the things we desire, or the things someone else has. It brings us our own, the things we have created by our thought process, either consciously or unconsciously. Unfortunately, many of us are creating these things unconsciously. 9. If any of us were building a home for ourselves, how careful we would be about the project, how we would study every detail, how we would care for the material and select only the best of everything, and yet how careless we are when we go to build our mental home, which is infinitely more important than any physical home, for everything that can come into our lives depends upon the kind of material that is incorporated in the construction of our mental home. 10. What are the characteristics of this material? We have seen that it is the result of impressions that we have accumulated in the past and stored deep within our mental subconscious. If these impressions were of fear, uneasiness, worry, anxiety, if they were discouraging, negative, doubtful, then the texture of the material we are weaving today will be of the same negative material. Instead of having value, it will be damaged and rotten and will bring us only more fatigue, worry, and anxiety. We will be forever busy patching it up and making it look at least pleasant. 11. But if we have stored up nothing but courageous thoughts, if we have been optimistic, positive, and have immediately thrown any negative thought into the refuse pile, have refused to have anything to do with it, have refused to associate with it or identify with it in any way, then what is the result? Our mental material is now of the best kind. We can weave any kind of material we want. We can use any color we want. We know that the texture is firm, that the material is solid, that it will not fade, and we have no fear, no anxiety concerning the future. There is nothing to cover up, no patches to hide. 12. These are psychological facts. There is no theory or assumption about these thought processes. There is nothing secret about them. In fact, they are so simple that anyone can understand them. The thing to do is to cleanse our mind, to do this cleansing every day, and to keep it clean. Mental, moral, and physical cleansing are absolutely essential if we are to make any progress. 13. When this process of mental cleansing is complete, the material that remains will be appropriate for the formation of the kind of ideals or mental images that we wish to realize. 14. There is a magnificent estate waiting to be claimed, with extensive land, abundant crops, running water and excellent timber, open spaces as far as the eye can see. It is a mansion, spacious and cheerful, with exceptional paintings, a complete library, sumptuous details, and all the luxury and comfort. All his heirs have to do is to confirm their right, take possession, and make use of the estate. He must use it. He must not let it decay. To use it is the condition to be fulfilled. To neglect it is to lose possession. 15. Dominion of mind and spirit, dominion of practical power. Such an inheritance is yours. You are the heir. You can claim your inheritance and possess it, and use this rich inheritance. Power over circumstances is one of its fruits. Health, harmony and prosperity are assets in your balance. It offers balance and peace. It costs you only the work of studying and reaping its great riches. It demands no sacrifice, except the loss of its limitations, its bondage and weakness. It clothes him with honor and puts a scepter in his hands. 16. To attain this inheritance, 3 processes are necessary. He must sincerely desire it. He must confirm his claim. He must take possession. 17. Admit that these conditions are not heavy. 18. You are familiar with the subject of heredity. Darwin, Huxley, Haeckel, and other scientists have accumulated mountains of evidence that heredity is a law attending evolution. It is progressive heredity that gives man his erect posture, his capacity for movement, the organs of digestion, the circulation of the blood, strength in the nerves, muscular strength, bone structure, and a host of other abilities on the physical side. There are even more impressive facts concerning the inheritance of mental strength. All this constitutes what may be called his human inheritance. 19. But there is an inheritance that scientists have not found. It lies beneath and precedes all their researches. There is a point where they throw up their hands in despair, saying that they cannot explain what they see. This divine inheritance is in full swing. 20. It is the benign force that decrees the primordial creation, living emotion that comes from the divine, essence within all creation. It originates life which the scientist has not made nor can make. It stands out among all supreme forces, unattainable. Nothing human comes close to it. No human dimension surpasses it. 21. This infinite stream of life flows through you. It is you. Your access is the attributes that constitute your consciousness. To keep these doors open is the secret of power. Is it not worth the effort? 22. The great fact is that the source of all life and all power is within you. People, circumstances, and events may suggest needs and opportunities, but the inner strength and power to respond to these needs lies within you. 23. Avoid falsehoods. Build a firm foundation for your awareness of the forces flowing directly from the infinite source, the universal mind of which you are the image and likeness. 24. Those who have taken possession of this inheritance will never be the same again. They have taken possession of a feeling of power never before dreamed of. They will never again be timid, weak, hesitant, or fearful. They are indissolubly connected with omnipotence. Something in them awakened. They have suddenly discovered that they possess an enormous latent capacity of which they were totally unaware. 25. This power is internal, but we cannot receive it unless we use it. To use it is the condition of possessing this inheritance. Each of us is a channel through which the omnipotent power is taking form. Unless we use it, the channel becomes clogged and we can receive no more. This is true on every plane of existence, in every field of endeavor and in every vocation of life. The more we give, the more we get. The athlete who wishes to get strength makes use of the strength he has, and the more he contributes, the more he will get. The financier who wishes to make more money must make use of the money he has, for only by using it can he earn more. 26. The merchant who does not keep up his sales will soon have no income. The firm that does not give efficient service will soon lack customers. The lawyer who cannot get results will soon lack clients, and so it goes everywhere. Power is contingent upon a proper use of the power already in our possession. which is true in every field of endeavor, in every experience of life, is the truth of the power of which every power known among men is generating spiritual power. Take away the spirit and what remains? Nothing. 27. Then, if spirit is all, upon the recognition of this fact will depend the ability to demonstrate all power, whether physical, mental, or spiritual. 28. All possession is the result of the accumulated mental attitude or money consciousness. This is the magic wand which will enable you to receive the idea and will formulate plans for you to execute, and you will find as much pleasure in the execution as in the satisfaction of accomplishing them. 29. Now, go to your room, take the same seat, the same position as heretofore, and mentally select a place that is agreeable to you. Make a complete mental picture of it. See the buildings, the surroundings, the trees, friends, relations, everything complete. At first, you will find yourself thinking of everything under the sun, except the idea on which you wish to concentrate. But don't let this discourage you. Persistence will win out, but persistence requires that you practice these exercises every day without fail. Study questions with answers. Part 2. 41. What proportion of our mental life is subconscious? At least 90%. 42. Is this extensive mental storehouse generally used? No. 43. Why not? Few understand or appreciate the fact that it is an activity which they can consciously direct. 44. Whence has the conscious mind received its tendencies to govern? From heredity, which means that it is the result of all environments beyond all generations. 45. What is the law of attraction bringing us? Ours. 46. What is ours? What we intrinsically are, and we are the result of our last thought, conscious and subconscious. 47. Of what is the material of which we build our mental home made? Of the thoughts we harbor. 48. What is the secret of power? The recognition of the omnipresence of omnipotence. 49. Where does it originate? All life and all power is within. 50. Upon what is the possession of power conditioned? Upon a proper use of the power already in our possession. Introduction, Part 3. This part will give you an excellent understanding of the most wonderful piece of mechanism ever created. A mechanism with which you can create for yourself health, strength, success, prosperity, or any other condition you desire. Needs are demands, and demands create action, and actions produce results. The process of evolution is constantly building our tomorrow from the now. Individual development, like universal development, is gradual with ever-increasing capacity and volume. Knowing that if we violated the rights of others, we will have a guilty conscience and be in trouble every moment, is a sign that success is conditional upon the highest ideal, which is the greatest good for the most. Aspiration, desire, and maintaining harmonious relationships constantly and persistently will achieve results. The greatest obstacle is attachment to erroneous ideas. To be in tune with eternal truth, we must have serenity and inner harmony. To receive intelligence, the receiver must be attuned to the transmitter. Thought is a product of the mind, and the mind is creative. But this does not mean that the universe will change its modus operandi to suit us or our ideas. It means that we can be in harmonious relationship with the universe, and when we have achieved this, we can ask for whatever we are entitled to, and it will simply be done. Part 3. 1. The universal mind is so wonderful that it is difficult to understand its available powers and possibilities and its unlimited effects. 2. We have found that this mind is not only all intelligence, but all substance. How, then, is it formed? How do we bring about the desired effect? 3. Ask any electrician what will be the effect of electricity, and he will reply that electricity is a form of energy, and its effect will depend upon the mechanism to which it is connected. On this mechanism will depend whether we shall have heat, light, force, music, or any other wonderful demonstration of power where this essential energy has been applied. 4. What effect can thought produce? The answer is that thought is mind in action, just as wind is air in action, and its effect will depend entirely upon the mechanism to which it is attached. 5. Here, then, is the secret of all mental power. It depends entirely upon the mechanism to which we attach ourselves. 6. What is this mechanism? Do you know anything of the mechanism invented by Edison, Bell, Marconi, and other wizards of electricity, by which place, space, and time became only a form of speech? But have you ever stopped to think that the mechanism given to you to transform the universe, the omnipresent potential power, was invented by a greater inventor than Edison? 7. We are accustomed to examine the mechanism of the implements we use to till the soil, and we try to understand the mechanism of the automobile we drive, but most of us are content to remain in absolute ignorance of the greatest mechanism that ever existed, the brain of man. 8. Let us examine the wonders of this mechanism. Perhaps in that way we shall better understand the various effects it causes. 9. First, there is the great mental world in which we live, move, and have our being. This omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent world, it will respond to our desire in direct relation to our purpose and faith. The purpose must be in accordance with the law of our being, that is to say, it must be creative or constructive. Our faith must be strong enough to generate a current of force sufficient to bring our purpose into manifestation. Be it done, according to thy faith, bears the sign of scientific proof. 10. The effects produced in the outer world are the result of the action and reaction of the individual upon the universe. This is the process we call thinking. The brain is the organ through which this process is accomplished. Think of the wonder of it. Do you love music, flowers, literature, or are you inspired by the ingenuity of ancient or modern thought? Remember, every beauty you respond to must have a corresponding counterpart in your brain before you can appreciate it. 11. There is not a single virtue or principle in the storehouse of nature that the brain cannot express. The brain is a world in embryo, ready to develop at the moment it is needed. If you can understand that this is a scientific truth and one of the wonderful laws of nature, it will be easier for you to understand the mechanism by which these extraordinary results are being achieved. 12. The nervous system is compared to an electrical circuit with its battery of cells in which the force originates, and its white matter with the insulated wires through which the current flows. It is through these channels that every impulse or desire is carried through the mechanism. 13. The spinal cord is the great motor and sensory pathway by which messages are sent to and from the brain. Then, it is the source of the blood which flows through the veins and arteries, renewing our energy and strength. The perfectly arranged structure upon which the whole physical body rests, and, finally, the beautiful and delicate skin covering the whole mechanism is a mantle of beauty. 14. This then is the temple of the living God, and the individual I yielded control, and upon the knowledge of the mechanism under its control will depend the result. Part 3. 1. The universal mind is so wonderful that it is difficult to understand its available powers and possibilities and its unlimited effects. 2. We have found that this mind is not only all intelligence, but all substance. How, then, is it formed? How do we bring about the desired effect? 3. Ask any electrician what will be the effect of electricity, and he will reply that electricity is a form of energy, and its effect will depend upon the mechanism to which it is connected. On this mechanism will depend whether we shall have heat, light, force, music, or any other wonderful demonstration of power where this essential energy has been applied. 4. What effect can thought produce? The answer is that thought is mind in action, just as wind is air in action, and its effect will depend entirely upon the mechanism to which it is attached. 5. Here, then, is the secret of all mental power. It depends entirely upon the mechanism to which we attach ourselves. 6. What is this mechanism? Do you know anything of the mechanism invented by Edison, Bell, Marconi, and other wizards of electricity, by which place, space, and time became only a form of speech? But have you ever stopped to think that the mechanism given to you to transform the universe, the omnipresent potential power, was invented by a greater inventor than Edison? 7. We are accustomed to examine the mechanism of the implements we use to till the soil, and we try to understand the mechanism of the automobile we drive, but most of us are content to remain in absolute ignorance of the greatest mechanism that ever existed, the brain of man. 8. Let us examine the wonders of this mechanism. Perhaps in that way, we shall better understand the various effects it causes. 9. First, there is the great mental world in which we live, move and have our being. This omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent world, it will respond to our desire in direct relation to our purpose and faith. The purpose must be in accordance with the law of our being, that is to say, it must be creative or constructive. Our faith must be strong enough to generate a current of force sufficient to bring our purpose into manifestation. Be it done, according to thy faith, bears the sign of scientific proof. 10. The effects produced in the outer world are the result of the action and reaction of the individual upon the universe. This is the process we call thinking. The brain is the organ through which this process is accomplished. Think of the wonder of it. Do you love music, flowers, literature, or are you inspired by the ingenuity of ancient or modern thought? Remember, every beauty you respond to must have a corresponding counterpart in your brain before you can appreciate it. 11. There is not a single virtue or principle in the storehouse of nature that the brain cannot express. The brain is a world in embryo, ready to develop at the moment it is needed. If you can understand that this is a scientific truth and one of the wonderful laws of nature, it will be easier for you to understand the mechanism by which these extraordinary results are being achieved. 12. The nervous system is compared to an electrical circuit with its battery of cells in which the force originates and its white matter with the insulated wires through which the current flows. It is through these channels that every impulse or desire is carried through the mechanism. 13. The spinal cord is the great motor and sensory pathway by which messages are sent to and from the brain. Then, it is the source of the blood which flows through the veins and arteries, renewing our energy and strength. The perfectly arranged structure upon which the whole physical body rests, and, finally, the beautiful and delicate skin covering the whole mechanism is a mantle of beauty. 14. This then is the temple of the living God, and the individual I yielded control, and upon the knowledge of the mechanism under its control will depend the result. 15th, every thought sets the brain cells in action. At first, the substance upon which the thought is directed does not respond, but if the thought is sufficiently refined and concentrated, the substance finally responds and expresses itself perfectly. 16. This influence of the mind can be exerted upon any part of the body, eliminating any undesirable effects. 17. A perfect conception and understanding of the laws governing in the mental world are of inestimable value in business transactions, for it develops power of discernment and gives clearness in the comprehension and appreciation of facts. 18. The man who looks within rather than without can make use of the powerful forces which will ultimately determine his course in life, and thus bring him into vibration with all that is best, strongest, and most desirable. 19. Attention or concentration is probably the most basic and important in the development of mental culture. The possibilities of attention, when properly directed, are so amazing that they would seem incredible to the uninitiated. A developed attention is the distinguishing characteristic of every successful man or woman and is the greatest personal skill that can be acquired. 20. The power of attention can be most easily understood by comparing it to a magnifying glass in which the light of the sun's rays can be focused. They possess no particular force, as the glass moves about and the rays are directed from place to place, but leave the glass perfectly held and allow the rays to be focused on one point for some time, and the effect will be immediately apparent. 21. So it is with the power of thought. Allow the power to be dissipated by directing thought from one object to another, and apparently there is no result, but focus this power by attention or concentration on any purpose for some time and nothing will be impossible. 22. A very simple remedy for a complex situation, I would say. Very well, try it. You who have had no experience in concentrating your thought on a definite purpose or object. Choose any object and concentrate your attention on it with a definite purpose for only 10 minutes. You cannot do this. The mind will wander a dozen times, and it will be necessary to bring it back to the original purpose, and each time the effect will have been lost, and at the end of the 10 minutes, nothing will have been gained because you have not been able to hold your thoughts steadily to the purpose. 23. It is, however, through attention that you will finally be able to overcome all obstacles that appear in your upward path, and the only way to acquire this wonderful power is by practice. Practice perfects, in this as in everything else. 24. To cultivate the power of attention, bring a photograph with you to the same seat in the same room, in the same position as heretofore. Examine it closely for at least 10 minutes. Observe the expression of the eyes, the shape of the features, the clothes, the way the hair is arranged. In short, observe carefully every detail shown in the photograph. Now cover it and close your eyes and try to see it mentally. If you can see every detail perfectly and can form a good mental picture of the photograph, you should congratulate yourself. If not, repeat the process until you can. 25. This step is simply for the purpose of preparing the ground. Next week we will be ready to sow the seed. 26. It is by such exercises that you will finally be able to control your mental disposition, your attitude, your state of consciousness. 27. The great financiers are learning to withdraw more and more from the crowd so that they can have more time to plan, to think, and to generate the right mental disposition. 28. Successful businessmen are constantly demonstrating that it is profitable to keep in touch with the thinking of other successful businessmen. 29. A single idea may be worth millions of dollars, and these ideas can come only to those who are receptive, who are prepared to receive them, who are in a successful frame of mind. 30. Men are learning to bring themselves into harmony with the universal mind. They are learning the unity of all things. They are learning basic methods and principles of thought, and this is changing conditions and multiplying results. 31. You are finding that circumstances and environment follow the direction of mental and spiritual progress. You are finding that growth follows knowledge, action follows inspiration, opportunity follows perception, always spiritual first, then transformation into infinite and unlimited possibilities of success. 32. As the individual is the channel for the manifestation of the universe, these possibilities are inexhaustible. 33. Thought is the process by which we can absorb the essence of power and hold it in our inner consciousness until it becomes part of our normal consciousness. The method of accomplishing this is the persistent practice of a few basic principles, as explained in this system, is the master key which unlocks the reservoir of universal truth. 34. At present, the two great sources of human suffering are bodily disease and mental anxiety. These can easily be traced to the violation of some natural law. This is, no doubt, due to the fact that knowledge so far remains partial. But the clouds of darkness that have accumulated through centuries are beginning to recede, and with them, many of the miseries that accompany misinformation. That a man can change himself, improve himself, rebuild himself, control his environment, and master his own destiny is the conclusion of every mind that is aware of the power of right thinking in constructive action. Larson. Study questions with answers. Part 3. 51. What are some effects that can be produced by electricity? Heat, light, energy, music. 52. On what do these effects depend? On the mechanism to which the electricity is connected. 53. What is the result of the action and interaction of the individual mind upon the universe, the situations and experiences we encounter? 54. How can these situations be changed? By changing the mechanism by which the universe is formed. 55. What is this mechanism? The brain. 56. How can it be changed? By the process we call thinking. Thoughts produce brain cells, and these cells respond to a corresponding thought in the universe. 57. Of what value is the power of concentration? It is the greatest personal ability that can be acquired, and is the distinguishing characteristic of every successful man or woman. 58. How can it be acquired? By punctually practicing the exercises in this system. 59. Why is this so important? because it will enable us to control our thoughts, and since thoughts are the cause, situations are the effect. If we can control the cause, we can also control the effect. 60. What is changing conditions and multiplying results in the objective world? Men are learning the basic method of constructive thinking. Introduction, Part 4. Throughout all ages, man has believed in an invisible power by which all things have been and are continually being recreated. We may assign personality to this power and call it God, or we may think of it as the essence or spirit that permeates all things, but in either case, the effect is the same. As far as the individual is concerned, the objective, the physical, the visible, is the personal, that which he can recognize with his senses. It consists of his body, brain, and nerves. The subjective is the spiritual, the invisible, and impersonal. The personal is conscious because it is a physical entity. The impersonal, being of the same kind and quality as all the rest of being, is not conscious of itself and therefore has been called the subconscious. The personal or conscious has the power of will and choice and can, therefore, exercise selection during the choice of methods by which it finds solutions to difficulties. The impersonal or spiritual, being part of and one with the source and origin of all power, cannot exercise any choice, but, instead, has infinite resources at its disposal. It can and does bring about results by methods which the human or individual mind cannot even conceive of. Therefore, you will see that it is your privilege to depend upon the human will with all its limitations and prejudices, or to decide to utilize the potentialities of the infinite by making use of the subconscious mind. Here, then, is the scientific explanation of the marvelous power that has been placed under your control, if only you choose to understand, appreciate, and recognize it. In this Part 4, a method of consciously utilizing this omnipotent power is described. Part 4. 1. Visualization is the process of making mental images, and the image is the mold or model that will serve as the pattern from which your future will emerge. 2. Make the pattern clear and make it beautiful. Do not be afraid. Make it grand. Remember that no one can impose any limitations upon you but yourself. You are not limited in cost or materials. Look to the infinite as your source. Build it in your imagination. It will have to be there before it appears anywhere else. 3. Make the image clear and precise, hold it firmly in your mind, and it will gradually bring the object nearer to you. Remember, you can be whatever you choose to be. 4. This is another psychological fact that is well known, but unfortunately, reading about it will not bring you any results that you may have in mind. It will not even help you to form the mental image, much less help you to manifest it. It takes work, insistence, strong mental effort, the kind of effort that only very few are willing to undertake. 5. The first step is idealization. It is also the most important step because it is the blueprint upon which you will build. It must be solid and it must be permanent. The architect, when planning a 30-story building, has visualized every line and every detail from the beginning. The engineer, when crossing a chasm with a bridge, first determines the requirements of 1,000,000 forces in different parts. 6. They see the end before the first step has been taken, just as you will draw in your mind what you want. You will sow the seed, but before you sow, you must know what you will reap. This is idealization. If you are not sure, go back to the chair every day until the image becomes clear, and it will gradually develop. At first, the general blueprint will be flimsy, but it will take shape. First, the outline will take shape, then the details, and gradually you will develop the power that will enable you to formulate plans that will eventually materialize in the objective world. You will come to know what the future holds for you. 7. Next comes the process of visualization. You must see the picture more and more fully, see the detail, and as the details begin to reveal the form and the means of bringing it into manifestation, it will materialize. One thing will lead to another. Thought will lead to action. Action will develop methods. Methods will foster friends. Friends will attract circumstances. And finally, the third step, or materialization, will have been accomplished. 8. We all recognize that the universe had to have been thought out before it could become a material fact. And if we are willing to follow the guidance of the great architect of the universe, we will find that our thoughts take form, just as the universe took concrete form. It is the same mind operating through the individual. There is no difference of kind or quality. The only difference is one of degree. 9. The architect visualizes his building, sees it as he wishes it to be. His thought becomes a plastic mold from which the building will finally emerge, tall or short, beautiful or plain. His vision takes shape on paper, and finally the necessary material is used and the building is fully erected. 10. The inventor visualizes his idea in exactly the same way. Let us cite, for example, Nikola Tesla, who had an enormous intellect and was one of the greatest inventors of all time. This man materialized the most amazing realities. He always visualized his inventions before he started working on them. Tesla did not rush to materialize them and then spend his time correcting defects. Having first constructed the idea in his imagination, he kept it there as a mental image to be built up and improved by his thinking. In this way, he writes in his book, The Electrical Experimenter, I am enabled to quickly develop and refine a concept without touching anything. When I have advanced it far enough to incorporate in the invention every possible improvement I can think of and see no faults in it, I turn the product of my brain into something concrete. Invariably, my design works as I conceived it should, and for 20 years I have found no exception. 11. If you can consciously follow these instructions, you will develop faith, the kind of faith which is the substance of things for which you hope, the evidence of things not seen. And you will develop confidence, the kind of confidence which leads to endurance and courage. You will develop the power of concentration, which will enable you to exclude all thoughts, except those which are associated with your purpose. 12. The law is that thought will manifest in form, and only he who knows how to become the divine thinker of his own thoughts can take the place of the master and speak with authority. 13. Clarity and certainty are obtained only by repeatedly holding the image in the mind. Each repetition makes the image sharper and more accurate than the previous one, and in proportion to the sharpness and accuracy of the image, so will the resulting manifestation be produced. You must build it firmly and surely in your mental world, your inner world, before it can take shape in the outer world, and you cannot build anything of value, even in your mental world, unless you have the proper material. When you have the material, you can build anything you want, but be sure of your material. You cannot make a fine dress out of tatters. 14. This material will be created by millions of silent mental workers and molded into the shape of the image you have in your mind. 15. Think of it. You have more than 5 million of these ready and active mental workers, which are called neurons. In addition to this, there is another reserve force of at least an equal number, ready to be called into action at the slightest need. Your power to think, then, is almost unlimited, and this means that your power to create the kind of material that is necessary to build for yourself. Any kind of environment you desire is practically unlimited. 16. In addition to these millions of mental workers, you have billions of mental workers in the body, each of which is endowed with sufficient intelligence to understand and act upon any message or suggestion received. All these cells are busy creating and recreating the body, but, in addition to this, they are endowed with psychic energy by means of which they can attract to themselves the substance necessary for perfect development. 17. They do this by the same law and in the same manner in which every form of life attracts to itself the material necessary for its growth. The oak, the rose, the lily, all require certain materials for their most perfect expression and obtain them by silent petition, the law of attraction, the most reliable way for you to obtain what you require for your full development. 18. Build the mental image. Build it clear, definite, perfect. Hold it firmly, and the means will appear. The supply will follow the request. You will be guided to do the right thing at the right time and in the right way. The sincere desire will attract the sure expectation, and this in turn must be reinforced by the firm request. These three things do not fail to attract attainment, for the sincere desire is the feeling, the confident expectation is the thought, and the firm request is the will, and as we have seen, the feeling gives vitality to the thought, while the will holds it firmly until the law of growth makes it manifest. 19. Is it not admirable that man should have such enormous power within himself, and that of such transcendent faculties he should have no idea? Is it not strange that we have always been taught to look outside for strength and power? We have been taught to look anywhere but within, and whenever this power manifests itself in our lives, we have been told that it is something supernatural. 20. Today, many have come to an understanding of this wonderful power and have made serious and conscious efforts to take charge of their health, power, and other conditions, and yet they seem to fail. They do not seem able to make the law operate. The difficulty in almost all cases is that they are focusing on the external. They desire money, power, health, and abundance, but they do not realize that these are effects and that they come only when the cause is found. 21. Those who pay no attention to the outer world will seek only to confirm the truth, will seek only wisdom, and will find that this wisdom will reveal and disclose the source of all power, which will manifest itself in thought and purpose that will create the outer conditions desired. This truth will find expression in noble purpose and courageous action. 22. Create only ideals. Do not think of external conditions. Make your inner world beautiful and opulent, and the outer world will express and manifest the conditions within you. You will come to understand your power to create ideals, and those ideals will be projected into the world of effects. 23. For instance, suppose a man is in debt. He will continually think of debt, concentrating upon it, and as thoughts are causes, the result is that he will not only ensure that the debt will remain with him, but he will actually create more debt. He is putting into operation the great law of attraction, with the normal and inevitable result. Loss leads to even greater loss. 24. What then is the correct principle? Give yourself to the things you want, not to the things you don't want. Think of abundance. Idealize methods and plans for putting the law of abundance into operation. Visualize the conditions through which the law of abundance creates. This will result in manifestation. 25. If the law functions perfectly to bring poverty, lack, and all forms of limitation, to those who continually hold thoughts of lack and fear, it will also function with the same certainty to attract conditions of abundance and affluence to those who hold thoughts of courage and power. 26. This is a difficult problem for many. We are too anxious, so we manifest anxiety, fear, tension. We want to do something, and we want to help. We are like a child who has just planted a seed, and every 15 minutes stirs the soil to see if it is growing. Of course, under these circumstances, the seed will never germinate, and this is exactly what many of us do in the mental world. 27. We must plant the seed and leave it undisturbed. This by no means means that we sit idle. We will do more and better work than we have ever done before. New channels will constantly provide. New doors will open. All that is necessary is to have an open mind and be ready to act when the time comes. 28. The power of thought is the most powerful means of gaining knowledge, and if it is concentrated on one subject, it can solve any problem. Nothing is beyond the power of human understanding, but for that it is required to harness the power of thought and make it produce what we desire. 29. Remember that thought is the fire that creates the steam that moves the wheel of fortune upon which your experiences depend. 30. Ask yourself a couple of questions and then wait reverently for the answers. Do you always feel yourself within yourself? Do you assert yourself, or do you follow the majority? Remember that majorities are always led and are never guides. What became of the majority that fought tooth and nail against the steam engine, the automatic loom, and every other advance or improvement that was then proposed? 31. For your exercise this week, visualize a friend, see him exactly as you saw him last time. See the room, the furniture, remember the conversation. Now see his face, see it clearly. Now, talk to him about a subject of mutual interest. See his expression change, see him smile. Can you do it? Okay, you can, so pique his interest. Tell him an adventurous story. See his eyes light up with a spirit of joy or excitement. Can you do all this? If so, Your imagination is good and you are making excellent progress. Study questions with answers. Part 4. 61. What is visualization? The process of creating mental images. 62. What is the result of this method of thinking? By holding the visual image or picture in the mind, we can gradually but surely bring it closer and closer to us. We can be what we wish to be. 63. What is idealization? It is the process of visualizing or idealizing plans that will eventually materialize in our objective world. 64. Why are clarity and certainty necessary? Because seeing creates feeling and feeling creates being. First, mental, then emotional, then the limitless possibilities of attainment. 65. How is it that these are obtained? Each repeated action makes the image more reliable than the previous one. 66. How is the building material of your mental image secured? Through millions of mental workers called neurons. 67. How do you secure the conditions necessary to bring your ideal into manifestation in the objective world? By the law of attraction, the natural law by which all conditions and experiences materialize. 68. What are the 3 steps necessary to make this law operate? Sincere desire, confident expectation, steadfast desire. 69. Why do many fail? Because they concentrate on loss, sickness, and disaster. The law operates perfectly. The things they fear come to them. 70. What is the alternative? Concentrate on the ideals you wish to see manifested in your life.